Hey there folks, DiSanto here. How are you? Welcome to another video on Quicken. I'm also broadcasting from my new office here in France. Maybe you caught the video, but we moved to France for 3 months and we're trying something different. So I'm doing videos from France. Okay, so in this video I'm going to talk about the tax-related aspect of categories in Quicken and what they're there for and how they can help you if you want them to. So without further ado, gonna hop right in here, put on the glasses. Okay, so I got Quicken up here and I'm in the category area. And so first I want to show you here, in case you can't see this tax light on him, there's a little gear here where you can turn different the different available columns on or off for the category box. So make sure the tax item's on. And once you put it on, you're going to see some of your categories, especially if you're just starting with Quicken and you haven't edited any categories, you're going to see the tax line item association that Quicken puts on things. And you might be wondering, or probably seeing you watching this video, you have been wondering, what is that all about? So let me explain that. So first of all, I'm gonna jump in here. I'm gonna go into a category and I'm gonna hit edit. And over here, if you're making a new category or editing an existing one, there's gonna be this box here called tax reporting. And if you associate a category with a tax item, what you're doing is saying to Quicken, listen, anything I put in this category, you can utilize for your tax-related purposes. And you'll have essentially more data associated with all the transactions in that category. And so that, of course, begs the question, what are these tax-related purposes? My understanding, is that it's kind of twofold. And I'll be honest with you, I don't really pay too much attention or utilize the tax association. I mean, it's on a bunch of my categories by default, but I don't really use it. But I'm going to explain what it is right now, or what those purposes are. So two purposes I think about. First of all, Quicken used to be owned by Intuit, which also owns QuickBooks and TurboTax, and now it actually owns Credit Karma. At some point, I don't know how many years ago, Intuit sold off Quicken to a private equity firm, and it's a standalone company now. But originally, when it was owned by Intuit and associated with TurboTax officially, it built in these tax-related categories so that if you went to go do your tax return with TurboTax, you could have TurboTax pull relevant information from your data based on the fact that transactions are in a category that are associated with a tax item. So, and the tax items line up with a 1040 tax return. So you can see here you have Schedule A, Schedule B, C, D, E, and other aspects of the form. So you really can dial in, hey, if I put a transaction in this category and I go use TurboTax, it's going to say, it's going to pull that data. And I'll give you the perfect example. So this is, imagine this category was business income, okay? So you're a sole proprietor, you don't have a corp, so you do your business income and expense on your personal tax return Schedule C. You would, if this was a business income category, you would select Schedule C and you would do gross receipts or sales, right? Now, as you can see, I'm editing here a category called accounting, which is a business expense. So I could go Schedule C, and then I could go legal and professional fees, right? And I hit save. Now, if I go to TurboTax and I pull in my data, it's going to take all the data from the categories that are labeled with those Schedule C gross receipts or Schedule C legal and professional or whatever, and populate the tax return for me. So honestly, if you use TurboTax, I would definitely use these tax categories because it will make your tax prep a lot easier. And it doesn't just relate to business expenses. On your personal tax return under Schedule A, you might do itemized deductions. So perfect example there is like mortgage interest. Over here, you can even see the interest under my housing expense is Schedule A home mortgage interest. So it really would help. And that's one primary reason they're there for. Now, I don't use TurboTax, so that wouldn't necessarily benefit me. Of course, I haven't gone through and removed the tax line association with categories where it had been on, but I haven't really gone through and assigned it to all my own custom categories because I don't use it. However, I will say there is another reason you might want to use it even if you don't use TurboTax. Quicken will try to help you get a better understanding of your tax liability, either taxes still owed or based on what you've paid, what the remainder is, or if you've paid no taxes, what your total tax might be. So here under this tax area for report, it will pull data from your essentially transactions in categories that have tax related associations. And it'll use that information to try to help you make more sense or estimate your taxes. Now again, I don't do that honestly because my tax return is pretty complicated with businesses and real estate and investing and all that. Like, I just wouldn't trust it really to tell me, hey, you know, you owe this much in taxes. Actually, I probably should trust it because it's got all good data. But I just have gotten used to kind of doing a bit of a tax estimation on my own, like in a spreadsheet that I just use every year. And then at some point I really assume I hand it over to my CPA because it can get pretty complicated anyway. So, but I do, when I go do my tax return and try to figure that estimate out, of course I run reports and I use that information from my spreadsheet. But it's very possible I could set Quicken up to give me accurate reports, information, estimates in this way by using tax-related categories and tax-related report. I just have never bothered to do that. And honestly, now that I'm saying that, I'm thinking maybe I should. It probably would be easier and quicker than my spreadsheet method. But you get used to your habits, and I obviously get all the data I need from Quicken. So that's the tax-related association for categories. That's why you're seeing this here and why you might want to use them. I'll add one more additional bit of information on this topic that completely confused me for a really long time. If you have Quicken Home and Business and you've created, income and expenses for your business and you've put tax categories on some, maybe not all, if you go over here to the business report, any cash flow or profit and loss reports in this section, and you go to do a profit and loss comparison or a profit, let's just say a profit and loss, when you're using the reports under business specifically, it is only going to grab data from categories that have a Schedule C tagged tax related thing. Now, that is only true when you go to do reports under the business area of reports. If you go over here to banking and do cash flow, it'll pick up every category, whether it's tax coded or not. And in my case, all my business categories, not all are tax coded. So I always do my reports from here. Technically, well, I should say there's no difference except because Quicken gives you the opportunity for accounts receivable and accounts payable. You could do a business report in accrual or cash method. You can only do an accrual method report if you use the business reports profit and loss statement. You go over to here under options, you go to advanced, and you can pick accrual or cash. You cannot do that from a cash flow report under regular banking. But because you need to have that tax Schedule C associated line item in order for the information from the categories to show up in the report, you have to make sure all your business categories have a tax line association if you want to do an accrual-based report. Totally strange, random. I'm not sure why exactly they do that. I think they kind of treat the business expenses a little bit more rigidly, essentially, than the personal. But I was trying to do this accrual report for a long time, and I'm like, I can't get the categories to show up, even though I'm over here and like they're checked and everything, they just won't show up. And then eventually I went on the forum and someone told me, yeah, if you want to use the business reports and get an accrual-based profit and loss report, you have to have each of your business income and expense categories tagged with a Schedule C tax association. So, a little insider baseball there. Okay, that's that for tax associations on categories. I'll see you in the next video. Thanks.